I'm going to show you how to add fractions with sums greater than 2. Let's start. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, and what I want you to do is I want you to look at these problems and look and see what's similar and different about these problems. As you can see, 2 and 1, 2 plus 1, is in each problem. So each problem is going to end with a 3 as a whole number, except if the fraction goes over 1. Now we've got 1/5 and 1/5, 1/5 and 1/2, 4/5 and 1/2. Well, if we look at this problem, do you think 1/5 plus 1/5 is going to be greater than or less than 1/2? Well, 1/5 is pretty far away from 1/2. And I know that 1/5 plus 1/5 is 2/5. So this one's pretty simple to add because the denominators are the same. Now B is going to be a little different because I have 1/5 and 1/2. And I know that 1/2 is greater than 1/2. 1/5 is less. So I've got to, when I add those two, I'd have to make common denominators. But I know that my answer is going to be greater than this answer because 1/2 is greater than 1/2. And this is less than 1/2. Now if I look at problem C, I've got 4/5 and I've got 1/2. I know that 4/5 is greater than 1/2 because half of 5 is 2.5 and 4 is greater than 2.5. So I've got 1/2 greater than 1/2 and 1/2. So I know that these two added together are going to be greater than 1. So this one's actually going to be greater than 4. So when looking at the similarities and differences between these problems, although it didn't ask me to completely solve, we can note that each of them are 2 plus 1. The differences are this is going to be less than 1/2. These two are going to be greater than 1/2. And these two, 4/5 and 1/2, are going to be greater than 1 whole. So those are some similarities and differences between these three problems. Now let's look at this problem. 2 and 1/5 plus 1 1/2. Is the problem the same as 2 plus 1/5 plus 1 plus 1/2? So basically all we're doing is looking 2 plus 1/5, 1 plus 1/2. Well, yeah, because 2 and 1/5 is the same thing as 2 plus 1/5. Now let's look over here and see if it's the same over here. All they did was add 2 plus 1 to make 3, and then you add 1/5 plus 1/2. So yes, all of them are the same. Let's use this strategy as we continue. Now this is the same problem, 3 plus 1/5 plus 1/2. So the 3 is the whole number. We're going to leave that alone because we really don't need to do anything. Can we add 1/5 plus 1/2? We can, but we have to make common units first. So if you think back to lesson 1, we need to split into fifths. We need to split into halves the other way. This is 1/5. And this is 1/2. And it looks like we make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenths. So we're going to change 1/5 to tenths, and we're going to change 1/2 to tenths. And remember, we multiply by a fraction to equal that tenth. And I know that 5 times, you're right, 2 is 10. So we're going to multiply by 2 over 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/5 is equal to 2 tenths. 1/2, 2 times 5 is 10. So what would my numerator be? You're right, 5, because we multiply by 1, or 5/5. 1 times 5 is 5. So 1/2 is equivalent to 5 tenths. Now can we add our fractions? You betcha. 2 tenths plus 5 tenths equals 7 tenths. And 3, we can't forget our whole number, plus 7 tenths equals 3 and 7 tenths. So 3 plus 1/5 plus 1/2 equals 3 and 7 tenths. Let's try another one. So again, what's already been done here for us is they just split 2 plus 4/5 and 1 plus 1/2. Then they just added the whole numbers first, which is going to be our strategy that we're going to continue with. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And then they just keep the fractions, 4/5 plus 1/2. Now over here it asks us a question. Are the fractional parts going to be greater than or less than 1? And this is good. It's kind of like estimating. It helps us in the end to know if our answer is reasonable. Well, if we look at these numbers, I know that 4/5 is more than 1/2. okay? Because half of 5 is 2.5, and 4 is greater than that. So 4/5 is more than a half. And I have 1/2. So if I add a number that's more than a half and a half, the answer of those, or the sum of those, is going to be more than 1. Okay? So I have 3 plus 1 and something. So my answer is actually going to be over 4. Now let's solve to figure that out. Again, if you can't find a common denominator, you can always split, just like this, into fifths and halves. Again, we get tenths. So we're going to change 4/5 to tenths. We're going to change 1/2 to tenths. Again, 5 times 2 is 10, so we use 2 halves, or 2 over 2, which is equal to 1. And 4 times 2 is 8. So 4/5 is 8/10. Now 2 times what gives us 10? I know that 2 times 5 is 10, so I have to multiply by 5/5. And 1 times 5 is 5. So 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. Now I can add my fractions, just make sure I don't forget that whole number at the end. 8/10 plus 5/10 is 13/10. Oh man, 13/10 is greater than 1 whole, which is what I said was going to happen. But now I need to change it to a mixed number. So I know I can take 1 whole out of 13/10, and that 1 whole is 10/10. So I just pulled 1 whole, so 13/10 equals 1 whole, and then I have something left over. 13/10 minus 10/10 is 3/10. So 13/10 equals 1 3/10. Now I need to add that to my whole number, and 3 plus 1 is 4, and my fraction stays the same, which is 3/10. So 2 4/5 plus 1.5 is equal to 4 3/10. And if we think back to when we asked if the fractional parts are going to be greater than or less than 1, we said that 4/5 plus 1/2 was going to be greater than 1, so our answer was going to be greater than 4, which ends up being exactly what happened. Let's try again. So again, it looks like they took 2, the whole number, plus 5, the whole number, and made 7. Now all they did was bring over the 2/3 and bring down the 2/5. So we're going to add 7 plus 2/3 plus 2/5. But before we do that, is the sum is going to be between which two numbers? Well, 2/3, how does that compare to 1/2? Well, half of 3, or half of my denominator here, is 1.5. So this is greater than 1/2. So 2/3 is greater than 1/2. Okay? Now 2/5, half of 5, is 2.5. So 2/5 is less than 1/2. So if I have one that's greater than 1/2 and one that's less than 1/2, I think my answer is going to be pretty close to 1 whole, or 2/3 plus 2/5 is going to be pretty close to 1 whole. Let's find out. So we're going to change 2/3 times something and 2/5 times something. We've got to find a common denominator for thirds and fifths. Again, if you don't know, you could always split into fifths, split into thirds. Here is 2/3 and here is 2/5. And if you count these boxes, we get 15 boxes. So our common denominator is 15. I know that 3 times what equals 15? You got it, 5. So I multiplied by 5/5, and 2 times 5 is, you got it, 10. I know you're doing this in your head with me, right? Now 5 times what equals 15? Yep, 3. So we've got to make this 3/3. And 2 times 3 is 6. So I've got 10/15 and 6/15. So now I've got to add 10/15 plus 6/15, which equals 16/15. And again, that's a little greater than 1. So we've got to pull 1 whole out of there, which is 15/15. I just pulled 1 whole out of there. I'm just going to write that over here. 16/15 equals 1. Sorry, I'm running out of space. And 16/15 minus 15/15 is 1/15. So 16/15 equals 1 and 1/15. Now I've got to add that to my whole number, which was here, and I get 8 and 1/15. So 2 and 2/3 plus 5 and 2/5 equals 8 and 1/15. And remember, when we looked over here, we noticed that 1 was greater, 2/3 was greater than 1/2, and 2/5 was less, so we knew it was going to be pretty close to 1 whole. And I'd say 1/15 is very close to 0, so we're extremely close in our answer. Let's try another one. All right, step 1. We are going to add the whole numbers. 3 plus 1 is 4. We're going to add 4 plus 2/9 plus 5/9. Or sorry, 5/6. Now, we've got to have a common denominator for 9 and 16. Now, this one's going to be a little hard to draw. You can absolutely draw it, or you can count by 9s and count by 6s and see where they overlap. I'm going to go 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. I'm going to go 6, 12, 18. Oh, look at that. 18 is a common denominator. So I'm going to change 2/9 to 18th, and I'm going to change 5/6 to 18th. 9 times 2 is 18, so I'm multiplying by 2 over 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so now 2/9 is equivalent to 4/18. 6 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15, and 5/6 is equivalent to 15/18. Now let's add. We have 4/18 plus 15/18, and that equals 19/18. And again, I can pull 1 whole out of there because 1 whole is 18/18, and 19/18 minus 18/18 equals 1/18. So I have 1 and 1/18, and I have to add that to my original whole number of 4, which gives me 5 and 1/18. I'm going to do a couple sets of this with you, and then I'm going to have you do the rest of it and bring it in to show me tomorrow. The first step is easy. Let's add our whole numbers. 3 plus 6 is 9. Now I've got to add 1/4 plus 9/8. So what I'd like you to do is solve the rest of this problem, 9 plus 1/4 plus 9/8, using common denominators, and bring it in tomorrow and we'll go over it. Thanks for watching.